Welcome back. Check the links in the description if you need to remember what the fuck is going on right now. We're on loop number 4. Yeah. Let's look at the timeline real quick. Alright, we actually got some good info from the last loop. Reset point is day 1. Subaru says the attack on the village will happen in 3 days. The white whale gets to the plains on the second night and is still there on the 5th day whenever Subaru and Rem go to leave in the first loop. I'm not sure if it gets there before or after midnight. I don't know. In the third loop, Subaru actually gets to the mansion on the third day, which is why no one has been attacked yet. Amelia dies later that day, but not quite at night, and then Subaru dies that night. Alright, let's line up the other loops with this one. The pain that Rem feels is probably from Ram getting attacked at the mansion. From the third loop, we know that the attack doesn't happen until at least the 4th day. It could be the 5th day, but I think it's the 4th, so I'm going to go with that. So here's the timeline that we're working with. I think the days are correct, but I don't know, who knows. Man, I need to find a better way to present this data. If too many things get close together, it looks like shit. That's a problem for another day, I guess. Let's get back to the story. Subaru opens his eyes to see the Apple Store. As he comes to his senses, Rem walks up to check on him. He grabs her hand and starts to run. Rem's mind and legs are struggling to keep up. Eventually, she gets him to stop. They end up at the city gate, which is where Subaru was wanting to go. Then they end up moving away from the crowd so they can talk somewhere a little quieter. But in the light novel, they just stay there, which means they have this whole conversation in front of everyone going in and out of the city. Subaru has a solution to all of his problems. Things I've realized and been forced to realize. All kinds of experiences have brought me here, but I've actually had the answer for a long time. Subaru extends a hand to Rem. Run away with me, as far as we can go. Rem takes this as some secret plan that Subaru has to help Amelia and Roswaal, but Subaru denies this. There's nothing I can do in the capital, but I'd be just as powerless if I went back to the mansion. That's what I figured out. I'm sorry it's so sudden, I really am, but you have to choose. Me or everything else but me. Subaru is basically giving up here. He's been told by so many people that he is useless, and he's starting to accept it. Especially coming from last loop. I mean, pretty much everybody told him in some way that he is useless. The light novel explains his decision here. He wants to run away, but he knows that if he's alone, he's really not going to be any better off than what's happening now. So he wants her to come with him. But he also knows that if they stay too long, then she will get the signal and she'll rush back to the mansion and die. He thinks that if she gets far enough away, then she won't get the signal. So he wants to take her further away from Roswaal's mansion, and he needs to do it ASAP. If she says no, or if she delays for too long, then nothing is going to change. Subaru is desperate for her to say yes. He's so worried about her answer that he can't even look at her. Subaru, I can't run away with you. After all, when we talk about the future, we need to smile, don't we? It was the response he had dreaded the most. He had hoped her devotion to him was enough to cover for the hasty request. I have thought about it too, running away and having a life together. Hearing this, Subaru is stunned. Devastated by her rejection, he is slow to process what she is saying. After arriving in Kararagi, we'd rent a room at an inn. A house would be better, but we can't be reckless with the money we have. First, we need a stable income. Fortunately, I have a proper education thanks to Master Roswaal, so finding employment would be rather simple for me. As for you, Subaru, you would probably have to settle for a manual labor job. Once our income is stable, we could look for a better place to stay. With both of us working, we could save up money, perhaps enough to eventually buy a house. Maybe a store of some sort would be better. Surely we would find a way to profit from your eccentric ideas. After time, this is embarrassing, but maybe children? As half human and half demon, they would surely be rather rambunctious. We would be famous with the locals as the always happy married couple and slowly spend our days together, growing old together. That would be a happy, happy way for my life to end. I want to reiterate Subaru's perspective right now. He doesn't believe that he can save anyone. Since Rem said no, she is probably going to die. So he is sitting here listening to her describe a great life that they could have together, all while he is probably thinking about her dying. I mean, neither the light novel or the anime say that's what he's thinking, but given his mental state at the moment, I'm pretty sure that's what's going through his head. I'm just now realizing that I may not have mentioned something from the last arc. Or was it this arc? I don't know. It doesn't matter. At some point, while Subaru was at Roswell's mansion, he invented mayonnaise. Apparently, that's not a thing in this world, and they loved it. I don't know what other things he's trying to make, but he's got a reputation at the village and the mansion of being a bit eccentric when it comes to his ideas. That's the reason why Rem brings it up that they could try to sell his ideas in a shop or something. It's basic isekai shit. He's just taking his ideas from his world and bringing them into this one. If you thought it through, Subaru, if you could smile while wishing for that future, I truly believe I could be happy after a life like that. But I cannot, because I know that if we run away now, I would be leaving behind the Subaru that I love the most. It's easy to give up, but it doesn't suit you. I have given up. Carrying it was impossible from the start. My hands are so small that it all slipped through my fingers, leaving nothing. That isn't true. What do you know? This is the kind of man that I am. I have no strength, but I want it all. I have no knowledge, but all I do is dream. There's nothing that I can do, but I struggle in vain. I hate myself. All I do is talk a big game and make myself sound like a big shot when I can't do anything. I'm empty. There's nothing in me at all. At heart, I'm just a small, cowardly, filthy piece of trash who's always worried about how others see me, and nothing about me has changed. All you know is yourself. How much do you know about the Subaru that I see? You are my hero, Subaru. My time has been stopped for so long. It was you who melted my frozen heart and kindly made my stopped time begin to move forward again. That's why I will believe that the Subaru who saved me is a true hero. Just as you started time for me, let's start here, from zero. This whole conversation is great, even with me cutting out a lot of it and having terrible voice acting skills. There's no way that I can do it justice. Just go watch it or read it. Subaru touches on a few things here, two important things. First, he realizes that he hasn't actually been doing anything to help others. Ever since they got back to the capital, he's spent this entire time only thinking about himself and how other people perceive him. And a lot of his self hatred comes from that. He knows that he is weak, but he wants others to see him as strong. And he'll do whatever it takes for him to get that. If that means being underhanded and telling half truths or just lies, then so be it. I think it's pretty similar to what politicians and merchants do. I mean, we've seen it with some of the other candidates. And the difference is, I think they use it as a tool. They use it on purpose to try to accomplish something. Whereas Subaru has almost been using it subconsciously, and he's just now realizing that he's even doing it in the first place. Instead of seeing it as a tool the way the others do, he sees it as destructive and negative. He hasn't been using it to try to work towards a goal. He's just been using it to try to inflate his ego. The other important topic is expectations. It's more apparent with Anastasia and Puck, but Subaru kind of makes the connection back to everyone else. But no one expects anything from Subaru. In fact, Puck's last words to him in the last loop were, "Wow, you really are useless." Paraphrasing a bit. So we get a two-hit knockout here. Subaru realizes that his personality is shit, and everyone expects him to be useless. Because of his personality, he wants others to see him in a positive light, and he is failing at that really hard. Rem comes in with a save for both of these. I'm just gonna summarize it real quick, but she says, "Yes, your personality can be shit, but the positives outweigh the negatives, and I have high expectations for you because you are my hero." These are both really important points, and it's a little surprising going back through the story. Before this, Rem comes off as just a simp for Subaru, and afterwards, she is still a simp for Subaru. But she's not blind about it. She knows that Subaru isn't perfect and almost respects him more because of it. He tries to do more than what he is capable of, and honestly, so far, she has only seen him succeed, except for at the palace, which she did not see. But this is what gives him hope to basically start over from zero. One thing that I think is done better in the light novel is his self hatred. And I completely understand why. It's a little hard to convey in the anime. But in both versions, he says that he hates himself. And the light novel points out that he still feels this way after the conversation. He doesn't just magically get better because of her words. He just pushes on because he doesn't want to disappoint her. And I like the light novel version better, but I think if they would have tried to do that in the anime, that probably wouldn't have come off as well, and I probably would have hated it. So it's fine, I guess. Alright, we gotta discuss the elephant in the room here. I left out a very important line that everyone loves to quote. Rem basically confesses or just tells Subaru how she feels about him, how much she likes him, and he responds with, I love Emilia. And everybody lost their goddamn mind. Look, let me not pretend like I got the moral high ground on this. I was also part of the Subaru hating club back then. Well, I guess for the first couple of arcs, I still am. It's not the point though. I understand why everyone was angry at Subaru. Rem is so great that it's easy to get lost in her perfection. I'm joking, please. Since that first time watching, I've kind of thought it through a little bit more, and his actions actually make a lot of sense. He sees Emilia in the same way that Rem sees Subaru. Emilia saved Subaru on his first day to this world. Emilia is Subaru's hero. So it seems weird to get a little butthurt about Rem not getting what she wants when Subaru is going through the exact same thing. Honestly, it seems like Rem understands this more than most of the fans. She knows that he likes Emilia, and they probably won't have a romantic relationship. But she's okay with that. She's okay with just following Subaru because she thinks he's amazing. And that should be enough. And besides, she deserves better. Subaru and Rem go back to Cruschet's mansion and once again begin negotiations. Cruschet, Felix, and Wilhelm on one side, Subaru, Rem, and Russell Fellow on the other. Subaru is well aware of his ignorance, so he's essentially paid Russell to act as his advisor for the meeting. Not wanting to miss out on a good money-making opportunity, he is happy to help. I'm here to form an alliance between Emilia's camp and Cruschet's camp. Cruschet looks at Rem. I have mentioned nothing. Subaru came to this himself. It makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. Why would Roswaal give up his best maid just to look after me? He sent Rem to secretly negotiate an alliance with you, right? Does that mean you'll be taking up that job now? Yeah, that's what it amounts to. Roswaal was a real jerk with how roundabout he set this up, though. In case you haven't noticed, this is the light novel version. The anime decided to cut out a lot of details so that they can save on time. And honestly, the negotiations in the anime are just not good. I mean, they work well enough, I guess, but because of how much of the details they took out, some parts of it just don't make sense, at least to me. So let's talk about the negotiations, or the pre-negotiation negotiations. So Rem was sent with a secret mission. She was supposed to try to make an alliance between Cruschet and Emilia. So this entire time that they've been there, she has been meeting with Cruschet to try to work towards that goal. And it's obvious by this discussion that she has been failing, and it's been really eating at her. She hasn't been making any headway towards the alliance, and she's not allowed to say anything about it to Subaru. So him finding out on his own and taking over the discussions is a huge relief for her. It also adds to the last loop. Subaru went to go discuss making a deal with Crochet, but he never brought up this alliance. So it kind of tipped Crochet off that he never had Roswell's blessing to make a deal with her at all. So any deal that he was trying to make was going to fail regardless. This time, the alliance is brought up, and Rem even mentions that Subaru is taking over the discussions, so it starts him off on much better footing. Now he has a big goal to hide his desires behind. But seriously, this is something that Anastasia brought up in the last loop. He was easy to use because all he wanted to talk about were his own wants and desires. Now he gets to talk about the big picture while sprinkling in his own wants. And it's just good to see him actually learn something. Honestly, I am glad to see his improvement in this loop. I mean, I gotta give credit where credit is due. He does a good job for these discussions, at least in the light novel. So far, only one thing has been offered by Amelia's camp: the rights to mine magic crystals in part of Roswell's domain. This piques Russell's interest. Magic crystals can bring in a lot of money, so mining rights is actually a good offer. But that isn't enough for Crochet to agree to an alliance. Subaru tries to sweeten the deal. He offers information on the white whale, where and when it will show up next. Bloodlust erupts from Wilhelm. Forgive my gross indiscretion. It would seem that I too still have room for improvement. After things quiet down, both Russell and Crochet question how he got this information. In the anime, Russell isn't even here at this point. He comes in later and doesn't really do anything, but I'll talk about that later. I said earlier that he is there to advise Subaru, but that's probably not completely accurate. He's there for money. So he will side with whoever is going to get him the most money. But he does help to drive the conversation. He points out that the mining rights and the information that Subaru has are both extremely valuable. So Crochet can't come in and try to undercut him and try to say that he's not offering enough. The real problem is whether the information is reliable. Bad information is worthless, so he needs proof. Subaru smiles and presents his cell phone. This lets me know. Maybe you have a way to prove this media reacts to Demon Beast? Let me correct you on one thing. This doesn't detect Demon Beasts themselves. It turns on only for important ones. Surely you're not saying it reacts when the user is threatened. Rem makes a noise as she makes a sudden realization. Everyone in the room looks at her, and Subaru encourages her to explain. I shall omit the fine details, but recently there was an incident within the Mather's domain caused by Demon Beast. Subaru was the one who acted the swiftest to bring the situation to an end. It is so sad that they cut Rem's part in this. So at this point, Subaru knows that Crochet is very perceptive and will probably catch him if he tries to lie. So he's trying to avoid any outright lies as much as he can. He can't completely describe how he knows about the white whale. So instead, he just has Rem spread some misinformation. She doesn't know how the phone works, but hearing Subaru's explanation, she connects the dots back to last arc. And she says that she has seen the side effects, basically. And this works against Crochet because Rem's not lying. That is what she thinks happened. And this gives credibility to Subaru without him having to lie. Again, this is a great job on Subaru. I don't think he planned that part exactly, but it worked out really well for him. Crochet doesn't suspect either of them of lying. In fact, she can tell they're not lying. She has the divine protection of wind reading. When someone lies, a wind blows around them, and Crochet is able to read that wind, so it's impossible to lie to her. I've talked about her divine protection before, so for some reason I thought that Subaru also already knew about it, but apparently not. So he got real fucking lucky deciding not to lie during this discussion. Crochet is still hesitant. Her decision could change the course of the kingdom itself, so she doesn't want to make it on a whim. A voice is heard on the other side of the door. Mind if I listen in on this little chat too? Anastasia opens the door and walks in. In the anime, this is where Russell comes in. Both Russell and Anastasia have an interest in seeing the white whale eliminated, so they want this deal to go well. But in my opinion, this doesn't really add anything to Subaru's side. I don't know why both of them being there right now is supposed to push Cruchet to agree. Anastasia at least offers up her mercenary group to help kill the white whale, but Russell doesn't do anything. He says that he is interested in the mining deal, but so fucking what? Well, he doesn't have to be there right now in this instance for that to happen. He just shows up, says, "Hey, I'm interested," and that's it. He doesn't add anything. I feel like they threw him into the anime simply because he was in the light novel. But since they changed things around and they removed details, there's just no reason for him to be there. Anastasia says that Subaru invited her. Both Russell and Cruchet are upset by this. Russell sees another merchant at the table and feels like his role has been taken. Cruchet thinks that Anastasia is simply another competitor for the deal. Frustrated, she stands up. If you expected a bidding war between my house and the Hoshin Company for your information, let me say that you will be disappointed. I have no intent on cooperating with your schemes. Wait, you're jumping to conclusions. Subaru waits for Cruchet to sit back down and the atmosphere to calm before continuing. I've brought everyone here because I think my information will be extremely useful for your plan to hunt down the white whale. Remember, at this point in the light novel, Cruchet hasn't said anything about her plans. Subaru has info that she wants, but she doesn't know that he knows, so she's trying to play it off like she doesn't need that info. At least I think that's what's happening. Crochet freaks the fuck out, and honestly, for good reason. At this point, Subaru says that he has info on the white whale, info that is very valuable to merchants, and then he brings in two merchants. And I completely understand why she would look at the situation and think that he is just bringing in people as competition to kind of sweeten the deal for himself, and she gets frustrated. I shall ask you one thing, Subaru. From where did this extraordinary idea come from? There were a bunch of things nagging me while staying at this mansion for the past several days. The volume of visitors and goods going in and out, night and day. According to a merchant I know, the prices of weapons and armor have been spiking. I thought you were preparing for war. The real question was, who were you planning on fighting? If you go by popular rumor, a lot seem to think that you're practically running alone in the race, Cruchet. But it looks like the merchants don't seem as eager to call it as regular folks do. In the first place, chances are good this is all miscalculations. After all, you're wording things to be pretty convenient for yourself there, Subaru. Subaru smiles and stands, extending a hand to Cruchet. If any part of what I'm saying is off the mark, then just go ahead and throw it out right now. But if what you're after is in line with what I'm hoping for, then we should take out the white whale. Cruchet sighs and closes her eyes. I have doubts. There are many elements I can't comprehend, which makes accepting immediately difficult. However, she stands and shakes Subaru's hand. I shall trust in your eyes and the spirit that led us to the current state of affairs. Success! Fucking finally. Alright, let's talk about Subaru's clues here. First is the amount of traffic. He's been there for a few days. He would notice how many people are coming in and out. And honestly, that in and of itself isn't really that big of a clue. What really tips it off is the amount of people coming to the mansion at night. On the night that Subaru and Cruchet had drinks together, Subaru noticed that there was still a lot of people coming and going from the mansion, even though it was pretty apparent that Cruchet wasn't seeing them herself. And I don't think that it was shown in either version, but I mean, it really doesn't matter. Again, he's been there long enough that even if he didn't notice it this night, he would have noticed it another night. So either she's trying to hide the stuff that she's bringing in, or there's just so much fucking stuff that there needs to be constant traffic. And either way, it's a clue that something is going on. Next, Subaru brings up the price of weapons and armor, and by extension, the rumors of war. And he gets this from two different merchants. In the last loop, Anastasia is the one to talk about the prices while they're having their discussion, and says that Cruchet has a hand in it. And then later on, whenever he meets the traveling merchants, they say that they're trying to sell weapons and armor while the price is high. And they even joke that maybe Cruchet is trying to start a war. Cruchet even brings up that she could be building up an army so that she could just take over the kingdom herself. But Subaru doesn't believe that she's that type of person. Also, one of the loops before this, Russell fails to make an agreement or some kind of deal. I don't know what it was. Some kind of deal with Cruchet. And then we hear him say, "Should Lady Cruchet succeed in her current endeavors, we would feel nothing but delight." It really doesn't make sense that she would plan on taking over the government by force and then have the Merchants Guild come and try to make a deal with her and fail, but then afterwards still want her to succeed. I mean, I guess it's not out of the question. There could always be some weird scenario or just some information that none of us have. But it seems more likely that her plans are something else. And Subaru connects it back to the white whale. I have no fucking idea where this whole rumor of the merchants not backing Crochet came from. It's not in any version or anywhere that I remember before this. I mean, maybe I missed it. I don't know. But this is the only real connection back to the white whale. Merchants are so terrified of the white whale that they will give a lot of money for any information about it. Even light mist is seen as a bad omen to them. So if Crochet is able to kill it, she will gain a lot of popularity for the one group that she is apparently still trying to get on her side. It wasn't really brought up, but I feel like Subaru could have just pointed at Wilhelm as another clue. I mean, we haven't gotten his backstory yet, so there's no way that Subaru would know anything. But given his reaction at hearing the white whale, I feel like it was a pretty safe bet just to like point at him. "Oh, how did I know you were hunting the whale? I had nothing to do with the fact that your butler just imagined killing it so hard that we all saw his thoughts like he was casting an illusion spell. No. I'm just taking a leap of faith that you're hunting it." Anyway, the deal has been made. I'm just going to rush through some of the details here. Russell agreed to help Subaru in exchange for his cell phone. Now, he's not getting it right now because Subaru still needs it for the hunt, but he will be getting it afterwards. It's not really that big a deal from Subaru's perspective. There's no towers or anything. He can't use it to make a call, and the battery's probably not going to last a whole lot longer, so at that point it will be useless to him anyway. And it's not a media per se, but it is technology that this world doesn't have. So giving it to Russell is still a pretty good deal for both parties. As for Anastasia, the simple reason that she is there is because she's a merchant. She has an invested interest in seeing the white whale killed, and maybe make a little money from selling stuff for the hunt. Subaru did invite both Anastasia and Russell for another reason, and Anastasia kind of points it out in a light novel. Subaru needed to be taken serious, so he invited important people to kind of add weight to what he was saying. Russell is the head of the Merchants Guild in the capital. Anastasia is the head of the Hoshin Company and a royal candidate. Crochet is the top candidate right now, so having all three of them together shows that Subaru is serious. And I gotta give props to Subaru. This whole situation was set up really well. And yeah, it took a whole lot of torture, both of Subaru and of us in the audience, but it worked out pretty well. In the light novel, Subaru informs them that they have about 30 hours until the white whale shows up by the Great Flugel Tree, which doesn't leave them with a whole lot of time. Now, Crochet's army is pretty much ready to go, except they don't really have all of the stuff that they need. Luckily, they have two big merchants there who are more than happy to sell them whatever they need. Now, Subaru says that this was all just a coincidence, that he brought the two people needed, and, it is, but but it does make him look even better to everyone that he was able to foresee this. Before this scene ends, there is one more thing that happens. Wilhelm thanks Subaru and fully introduces himself. "I took the previous Sword Saint, Theresia von Astrea, as my wife, giving me the honor of the bloodline's lowest seat. That is who I, Wilhelm von Astrea, am. I thank you for so kindly granting this old man the opportunity to slay the loathsome beast that took my wife." He bows low to Subaru. Right. Of course I knew. Naturally, that's how I was so sure Crochet would agree to wipe out the white whale. Subaru Natsuki, a deceitful wind is blowing from you. We already knew about Wilhelm, but now Subaru knows. And we're going to get a whole lot more backstory on him and his wife, so I'm not even going to bother talking about that just yet. Negotiations done, preparations begin. Next time we will get to the big fight. Probably. See ya.